Yo, 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 yo. What is going on? It's your man, Steve, your man, Sensi Star, Da Vinci, and Bex, and we're back for another episode of Dope Dynamics. Little hiatus while these people were off wilding out in Texas, living their young lives. But we're back, and we're ready to get it in. Shane, Izzy, everyone that's here, drop a 1 in the chat so I know that you are present. How the hell is everyone doing tonight?
Liddy Teddy, happy to be here.
Bex, you right? You heating up over there?
I'm really hot. Oh my gosh, I don't know why.
You gotta get that air conditioner going. How you doing tonight, Cincy?
Oh man, I am doing wonderful now. I am now wonderful. This day wasn't, but now I am.
Hey, that's good to hear, man. Shout out to you. Great episode, co-starring on Rogue Planet tonight, discussing Atlanta. Ingenious show made by amazing people. How was that experience being over there on such a bum ass show?
Yo, I had a great time. We may or may not have some plans in the works to discuss another show in the upcoming future, but you know, I had a great time, and I love talking any conversation about Atlanta because, like you said, like I said during the show, I think Donald Glover's a freaking genius when it comes to
media. Yeah, no, absolutely,
yeah,
man. Absolutely, amazing talent, amazing MC. First album was the best in my opinion. Favorite tracks on there, Bonfire and LES. If you haven't heard those tracks, go look it up. Childish Gambino, Bonfire, and LES. So we got a crazy show tonight. You know, we're jumping back into the swing of things. We got some topics and everything. And shout out to Carmen. How was the trip to Texas, folks? You guys have a good time, experience another culture, which is the Great Republic of Texas, a country into itself. Actually, the only place that could leave the Union and sustain itself. Don't know if that's still true, but economically they could do it.
It is definitely still true, and I believe I made that case to Carmen on the last day that we were there of, you know, the things of reasons, even though I can't see myself completely doing it, why I would move to Texas.
Man, I you know what, I would move to Texas in a heartbeat, man. Taxes are better. Land is a little bit more plentiful. They need to get their whole situation settled with the the infrastructure in regards to heating and the possibility of cold, but I would definitely move down there if I can convince Mrs. Holdup. You know, New York State is riddled with psychopaths, something I'll probably talk about tonight. And they're only making it worse here, making it worse on the middle class and lower class families and the pursuit of altruism. But I digress. What are we talking about tonight, man? What do we got going? Who wants to kick it off? Who's got topics? What the fuck do you people want from me tonight?
I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't do my homework on anything because I was on vacation. So,
coming in cold.
At least I'm being honest.
This
is not kindergarten. You don't get ready. You don't get that for being honest. No, you do. You my sister.
No,
honesty wins.
Hold on, Steve. Because even in kindergarten, in school, they give you homework over spring break. Damn it.
It's not real homework, though.
I mean, but is finding an article real homework?
Yes, it is. It's actual research. In kindergarten, man, it might be a little bit harder. They'll like put the star in the designated spot. You can't tell anyone to put anything where it's supposed to go nowadays.
They're going to make you read a whole ass book in high school over spring break.
On vacation, yes, it is homework. And who wants to do homework on vacation?
This man's a psychopath. Don't talk to him about this. He takes one aspirin a year. I ain't taking no life advice from a man that was like, I'm going to be sick and figure out what my body tells me. Like,
yes.
why would
a man that doesn't feed his kids.
See. I didn't. Look. I didn't come on here for disrespect. I feed my kids. I take 0 aspirin during the year, though. I will not fall off track.
Well, make sure you put me down on your medical paperwork so I can identify the body, and I'll put on your tombstone. This man said he wanted to see what was wrong with him first. He wanted to see what was going on.
I had a couple of things that I was hyperfixating on this week. I mentioned them in our little chat because I know I spammed you guys with TikTok videos because my algorithm is supreme. if you guys actually wanted some books, like I've been doing really good this month. I read 7 books last week. I'm on my 3rd one this week. Like I'm feeling pretty good.
Good. Well, okay. So who wants to kick it off? Who wants to get into the topic first? I got the Discord pulled up here. Chat, you know how we do. I'm going to play the video, share it. You know what I'm saying? If you want to check out some links, I'll send the links. And then, we'll make some time to have people come up and discuss, rebuke, or dispute whatever the topic is at the time. Who wants to get it cracking? Who wants to go first?
Can I?
Yes. What's going on? What do you got? Which video do you want me to play?
Okay. So there was a video in particular that I posted in the chat about the Amber Heard Johnny Depp case and how people come down or people are coming down harder on Amber Heard than they've ever come down on anybody else for assault, because as we know, like Chris Brown still has a thriving career, like Trey Songz still has a career, and like multiple sexual allegations against him. Like, and I'm not saying that Amber shouldn't do time or she shouldn't be punished for her actions, but like I think I would like to see some like uniformity across the board, because I feel like anytime a woman does something, it's like it's just like, oh my God, I can't believe she would do this. Like this is terrible. Or complete infantilization where they're just like, oh, a woman could never do that. And like, I don't know. I kind of want to talk about it a little bit. I also posted in the chat the thing about serial killers in the African American community, and how like sometimes people don't think that violence can be committed against people of color and Black people without it being instigated by them. So I kind of wanted to talk about those things, but like, let me know, because I've been hyperfixating. So,
all right. So which one is the Amber Heard video? Exactly, because I'm going through it. I see Melissa Stewart on TikTok. Can you help a brother out? Help me out here. Which one am I looking for, DeRinky?
Okay, so there is a girl in a purple dress.
Okay, bam, see it.
Okay.
Is she of the Caucasoid variety?
Yes. I'm sorry.
All right, that's all right. It's invalidated your point completely, but I'll still play it. So
oh my God.
let me get it going here. And chat, you can see my many Discords that I'm a part of. Shout out to DT Dub TV. The Feminists are up. Also the Hold Up TV, Laney's, Roundhouse Trolley, Power Love Latinas. Everyone that's in here. Rogue Planet, hosted by the Fat Mantis. But let's get this video cracking here. Hopefully the audio is good. Okay, there we go. The Tiki Talks. All right, that didn't work. Let's try this.
As much as I want to pretend men like this simply don't exist, I thought we should become aware of this 31-year-old man-child crying for 6 hours about a woman that accused him of being a fucking creep and basic predator.
Oh, sorry, wrong video.
19, by the way, and a former guest.
Nope, not that one.
I mean, it still pertains to it, because like,
okay.
I mean, she talks about it, but it's the wrong one. Let me see if I can't find the right one though.
All right, no doubt. And while we're doing that, shout out to everyone. Hey, if you wonder why your boy says drop a 1 in the chat, it's because Twitch wants to make sure that you're not a bunch of bots. So if you can just drop a 1 in the chat so we can keep our numbers up. And also, thank you for supporting us here tonight. And Vicky's gonna get that ready for us. I have something. It's a bit of old news, but I felt it was worth talking about while we're waiting to queue up this video. My topic: everyone's favorite conservative troll, the best in the business, Candace Owens, showed up to the house of Patrice. I'm keeping all the money. CEO, chief of, let's be clear, Black Lives Matter Incorporated, because now they've differentiated themselves. And I got smoke. I might get a little smoke on my homeboy Izzy, because you made the argument that why aren't we going after places like the Salvation Army? And I thought on that for a while. And then I was like, wait, because we're not talking about the Salvation Army. We're talking about Black Lives Matter and the get the money and run, queen culture, get the bag at all costs. My house is $2 million and we didn't even throw any back at the community that we helped burn down in the name of blackness. So I got receipts, I got smoke, and this woman needs to get off Instagram because you're only hurting yourself, but you're making great content for me. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna keep it a buck. Black people want to know, where did the money go? Why didn't it go back to the community? Why didn't you invest? Hell, why didn't you give some to Umar? You know what I'm saying? Give it to someone but yourself. That's what we want to know. You know what I'm saying? And in fact, Patrice, if you listening, you race hustling, hussy you, donate on Thursday night to Cincy Stars fundraiser. Put your money where your mouth is. Help the brother out. Send some money down this way. Trickle down effects. You know, Reaganomics. I'm bringing it back. We're going after all of them over here on Dope Dynamics. I got smoke, man. I'm seeing inconsistencies, and I got smoke for Black Lives Matter. You let me know when you're ready, DaVinci, because that was about as much bluster as I can get into without playing the video myself. You got me, sister? You ready? Oh, no, they got her. The feds got DaVinci. She's done for.
No, I'm sorry. I was just trying to find it, but like I'm so disorganized. I have like a million TikToks in my saved, and I was going through each of them trying to find the one about what I was talking about.
All right, I'm going to jump into the Black Lives Matter thing, and when you find it, we'll cue yours up next. I promise. Let me just do one thing really quick. Yeah, you know, just got to tell them I love them every once in a while. So let's get to this. Exposing Patrice Colors, brought to you by Candace Owens. Chat, let me know. Make sure the audio is good. I want to make sure we're good. And
Amber Heard is not the only person that's running around trying to squeeze out crocodile tears. This next story involves me and Patrice Colors. You know Patrice Colors. She is the founder of Black Lives Matter, the movement. It's all about Black lives. Put tons of money, donate money to rinse yourself of white guilt. Well, I've been working on a documentary about Patrice Colors. I've been wondering, I've been asking, I've been searching for the answer to this question. Black Lives Matter reported to have raised more than $90 million on the back of George Floyd and other Black people that died at the hands of police, as they say. And no one seems to be able to account for the dollars. So I thought I would like to take a look at this. Patrice jumped on Instagram as we were recording this, and I was outside of her home. And here is her explaining what took place.
This morning, I woke up to Candace Owens being outside of my house with a news crew. She was demanding that I come outside. When I looked at the video recording of what she was asking about, she was actually asking about the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation property. And for some reason, it seems she thought my house was that. It's unacceptable and it's dangerous that anybody, any stranger, come outside of my house, but it's really unacceptable and dangerous when Candace Owens, another Black woman who is actually working as a part of a
Sounds like
agenda.
Patrice is afraid of Black people. That seems like a little bit of racial profiling, Patrice. You might want to check that. First and foremost, she's a liar. We know this. It's why I've nicknamed the movement Black Lives Matter. She starts out by saying, I woke up to Candace Owens outside of my house. It was about 10 a.m. Patrice, you're lazy. I obviously had no idea she was inside. She contradicts herself when she retells the story. First, she says, Candace demands that I come outside. That absolutely never happened. But she's trying to create this imagery of her being afraid and scared and me going, Patrice Colors, come outside. But then she immediately jumps and says, Candace didn't know where she was at. And she was asking if this was the residence that Black Lives Matter purchased so that Black people could, as she said in the press, and Black Lives Matter, have a creative space to create videos. Those two ideas conflict with one another. It is true that I showed up at one of the many $million-dollar residences that are connected to Black Lives Matter. I had no idea that Patrice Colors lived there. I had no idea that she was inside. There were no demands made. There was a security guard that was outside who happened to be white, might be relevant. And I simply asked him if there was anyone available that we could speak to about the purchase of this home. All right, guys, digital eye strain. You all know what
I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit because it's relevant that we look at what actually happened. Let me see if I can find that part. All right, because she actually, let me not torture you guys. So what Candace does next is straight up guerrilla warfare. She shows the video of her walking up calmly. Huh?
You gotta show it. I need to see it.
Oh, it's deep into the video, and I don't want to. Let me see it. Oh, there it is. There it is. I found it. Don't worry. Okay, because Bex asked. Let me get it. All right.
Take a look. I did see some cars that were loaded, so there's definitely somebody home. Hello. I was just looking to speak to whoever is at this property because it's listed as the Black Lives Matter property. Sir? Hello? Are you instructed not to speak to anybody? We're not trying to harass you. We'll gladly leave. We're just wondering if we can speak to anybody. Thank you, sir. Have a great day. So the moral of this saga is that Patrisse Cullors continues to lie. Black Lives Matter continues to lie. And the reason that she's lying and trying to squeeze out these last victim crocodile tears is because she knows the truth is coming. I've been working on this documentary for months to expose Black Lives Matter. It has frustrated me being a person that has always been telling the truth about what they were doing. Obviously, what looked to me to be a money laundering scheme was not exposed, but it seems finally the world is ready to hear the truth. And they can do so when they watch my documentary, which I'm doing with the Daily Wire. And it is going to get so much worse for this organization when people realize just how fraudulent they've been. Thanks for joining me.
We ain't joining shit, Kansas. Make sure you join this channel. All right, so let me stop that there. Let me tell you why this matters to me, right? Before someone comes out with the fallacious argument of you're hurting the community, you're attacking the cause, you're going against our allies. Here's the last thing, in my estimation, as a 41-year-old man, that the Black community needs, right? We need no more false prophets pretending to be people who are for the community. I would see these people rooted out entirely. I would have them removed from their pedestals and their pulpit of lies, no matter they be Christian, Hebrew Israelite, Hotep, whatever they are. I got smoke for all of you people. You've misled and gouged the people for too long. And the reason that this is important is because we just had another psychopath come out recently, right? And this is all tied together, who attacked the legacy of one of the men from our greatest generation, right? And here we have, on the other hand, an organization that got its start with its bio saying, we are not your grandparents' civil rights movement, right? And the connection I want to make here, and this is your boy Steve speaking with my chest, Patrisse has fleeced us. Now, whether she did it knowingly, we'll find out when this all goes to court as the money starts to trickle out. The only thing they can do now to save their image as an organization is two things, in my estimation. If you don't believe that the corporate buildings should be recouped, the targets where mostly predominantly Black people worked in that part of the country that got burned to the ground, right? If you don't believe those should be rebuilt, I can see how you can make that argument. But for the small businesses that were owned by Black people, in Harlem, in the Bronx, in the area where George Floyd died, that money should have immediately went to those people as casualties of this entire thing. And you cannot make a legible argument against it unless you are in fact not here to support Black people, but you are here to support a narrative. Black Lives Matter, the global network or incorporated, someone needs to be accountable. Someone needs to cut a check and send it to that man, that security guard who was a policeman for his entire life, that was killed by two looters after he had made his entire career defending a Black community and died at the hands of two Black men pretending to care about George Floyd. Someone needs to send that man's family a check. Someone needs to pour some of that money into the schools in Harlem, the Bronx, and Cincinnati, and small grassroots organizations that are doing things like what Cincy's working with these young ladies, helping them to find a better way other than the streets. But for any person that would fix up their mouth right now to defend this woman and say charitable causes, since you asked me the other week, how much should a director make, in my estimation, to run a nonprofit? It's a very thankless job and it's complicated. You're writing grants. You're constantly put with your hand out, seeking money, trying to make sure you can meet the needs of your staff, the community you serve. I'm not mad at that person making $120,000 a year. Hell, even $200,000 a year, as long as the center is not the only thing that's paying them, that this is coming from other places. But to buy yourself any home in any part of California for millions, not thousands, millions of dollars, and then to claim that it is a campus in which you will be pumping out media. We don't need content creation from Black Lives Matter. You want that? Then build a studio. You don't need to live in it. That money needed to be poured back into the community. And I get sick and tired of people defending Patrice and her outside agendas that she's trying to force on the Black community. Like, this is crazy. You're saying this is absolutely crazy. And I'm not saying that this didn't happen in the original civil rights movement. Yeah, I've seen all the paperwork. I know who was infiltrated. I get all that stuff. But does one thing that happened in the past make this correct for this woman to do now? I'm not defending these people. You know why I won't go in Candace's comments? Because if you hit a dog and it yells, that's you. You're the dog. You gave her this ammunition. You know what I'm saying? Like, we all thought it was funny when she was like, Black America, you owe me an apology. Maybe you don't want to apologize to her, but you should damn sure tell her she was right. You know what I'm saying? $90 million, 2 homes, and the excuse that Patrice gave was so weak. It's like, well, you know, other charitable organizations have done this and they've bought these things for themselves, but you're supposed to be different. I don't care what those other charitable organizations were doing. They weren't serving the needs of my community. You propped yourself up as a moralistic leader and you failed the test. You know, and they've done everything to duck and dodge, you know. And I'm tired of the apologist. I actually, for anyone that wants to reshare this video, I will debate you, your mother, your uncle, and your grandfather at the same time, unprepped. And I guarantee the truth stands on the side with me. Black Lives Matter, global, if that's what they want to call themselves. They got you. They beat you. I'm no longer dissing Umar Johnson. All my smoke goes for Patrice and that mole in between her eyes. You know what I'm saying? That's my target, and that's where I'm landing, right then and there. Come at me. Get at me. The woman's a liar. The woman's she's a straight up liar. They're all liars. They got you. They beat you.
So you think she did it knowingly?
It's irrelevant. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of times it doesn't matter the kid who got the gun from the Blackstones, right? He didn't know, maybe he didn't know the crime he was going to commit. Maybe he thought he would get away with busting in the sky, but he's doing a brick, 10 years in prison for assault with a deadly weapon. Why is she above it? You're saying you got the money. So now either you open the books and do what's right, or you get everything that's coming to you. And any Black person, in my estimation, that stands on their side and starts to make an excuse, you can no longer use the word race traitor, Uncle Tom, coon, shucklebuck, jiving, or any of those things, because they got you. No more dissing the Nation of Islam, no more coming after Christians, no more coming after Hebrew Israelites. We need to all turn our attention to them and say, yo, show me where the money's at, and let's get it into the hands of the people that need it. Last thing I'm going to say on this. There's a video that, if you want to look it up, of a woman in the Bronx. This woman had been feeding the community for years. She got hers the hard way, made this restaurant, and they burned that shit down. How does that serve Black people? And don't come at me with the frustrations of a community are best expressed during riots. No, that's nonsense. It didn't work in Chicago during 1968. It definitely didn't change anything after Rodney King. It didn't change anything in Ferguson. When are we going to understand that controlled chaos is exactly the thing that your supposed enemy wants you to do? Because they're like, I'm sorry, I got to say it. These motherfuckers ain't going to do nothing but what we let them do. That's not revolutionary. You're not a revolutionary burning down your own community. You're an idiot. And it's controlled. So that's what I got for you.
Besides getting rich, what other outside agendas do you think she has?
Okay, so I see you lining me up early. See you lining me up early. Listen, man. There was this thing that came out a few years back on one of those untraceable tweets. You know what I'm saying? One of those untraceable Facebook posts, and the claim was the Black church has collected over $1 billion in revenue and has never done anything for the Black community. So I sat back and I looked. I was like, let me just look at this. What has the Black church not done, and what has the Black church done? And you know what my final conclusion after a couple of years of research? The Black church has done more with that money in our community than any other group. 100%. More rec centers, more church drives, more food pantries, more interventions. Don't forget who was on the front line when the gang violence started kicking off in Chicago. Don't forget who organized the marches against what we termed as black on black crime, which was not a term that came from white people. It was how we identified violence and the genocide that we were projecting on ourselves. The outside agenda that Patrice and them are bringing in has nothing to do with black people. Go look up their mission statement. That's not a black agenda. The shit they're preaching does not have anything to do with saving the black community. What they are preaching, however, is divisive, right? Do your own. I'm gonna coin a phrase. I'm gonna use a phrase that I hate when people do it to me, but you know what? Damn it, I'm finally in the position. The internet is your friend. Go do your research. And I want you to think about your grandfather and your grandmother and anyone you grew up with that was a positive black person in your life. And you tell me if they would read that bio statement and say that these are the things that the black community needs to be worried about. It isn't. It is not. They're false. They're false prophets, and we got to stop pretending like they're not. You think she doesn't get smoked because she's a woman? This woman got you. She got you. She straight up bought. Yo, you guys have been coming at, not you guys here, people have been coming at Creflo Dollar rightfully for years for getting a friggin' plane from his congregation. I've been throwing smoke at that man for years. And now you're not going to do it because she's a woman? Because she's a black woman? You're not going to get at this woman for giving her wife, who's not black, a home? You're not. You understand? Where does your hypocrisy stop? Get at me. The Hold Up TV, gmail.com. I want to see receipts. All you pro-black motherfuckers. Where does that shit stop? Where does your hypocrisy stop? It's for the culture. Miss me with that bullshit. if anyone even on this panel right now comes to this woman's defense with that weak she's a black woman argument, I'm just gonna turn my camera off and I'm gonna remember that y'all my friends. But if you're not on this panel right now, you come at me with that weak argument, you are full of shit and you just can't deal with the truth. The truth is Candace Owens isn't your enemy, you're your own enemy. You believe the wrong people.
Okay, I'm gonna try to remember that you're my friend. I got some thoughts and I had to be quiet for a little while because I was trying to determine whether or not I was getting defensive because like there's always like there's always people with something to say about black women. So like I know that like when somebody brings up a black woman, I'm like, hey, keep black women out your mouth. So I'm trying to determine if I feel defensive because people are always talking about her, or because like, you know, a hit dog will holler. Like, so I'm trying to think about it because like I definitely don't think that she had the intention of like exploiting the black community. And that's just me, but that's only speculation. So that's only what I think. I can't prove that. And the video is definitely kind of damning, but I don't think that Candace is for us either. So like I'm thinking about it. And I'm trying not to get offensive, so I'm gonna close my mouth for a second. If that's
That's totally fine. And I get where you're coming from, but just remember one thing. If you said something about a black man that did it, then you got to be willing to say it about anyone. And I think at a certain point, the argument can no longer be about, is she being attacked because she's a black woman, or is she being attacked because she did something wrong? Izzy wrote in the chat, I'm just glad some black people gained some type of financial power out of such horrible tragedies. I get that it was wrong and the victim should have gotten something out of it, but I'm glad anyone got anything, period. Easily, we could have been swept under the rug. White people do it all the time. No one bats an eye. Here is the fundamental crux of the problem in our community. You don't get an excuse to do wrong because you've been done wrong. You don't. That's not the way morality works.
I don't think that that's what she was saying. I think what she was saying is keep the same energy.
But we've been keeping the same energy. We've kept
where at?
DaVinci, I'm 41 years old, and fight the power has been the mantra of my entire generation. Before any of you folks were even able to dial up, black people have been coming at white people about receipts, taxes, redlining. These are not new topics. And the problem is this. You know what happens when one of our own does it? We want to be like, well, slide number 5 on the black hand side. Nah, fuck that. Forget that. 100%. And I'll say the same thing about Louis Farrakhan. I said the same thing about Elijah Muhammad. I've said the same thing for years. But we have bad actors within our own community, and we do the same thing we do with them that we do to the dope dealer that's stringing someone's mama out to push it forward.
Okay, but I'm a little confused. Like, what is it that you think that she's done that's comparable in that way? Like, are you upset because you don't like whatever narrative she's pushing? Like, what has she done to the detriment of the African American community?
Okay, so the receipt is $90 million. Communities burned down. George Floyd is still dead. None of those small businesses have been recouped within their own community. If you're a grassroots organization that claims to be about people, and ironically enough, you claim to be a practicing Marxist and organizer, that money should have been distributed. You don't get to make the excuse like, well, we weren't prepared, we weren't organized. Then get organized. Get the money to where it needs to be. Get it to the rec centers, get it to the community, get it to the people that need to have it. But you don't get to buy yourself a $1.2 million home. You don't get to buy campuses and not have a plan. You put yourself in a position to be a leader. Now you need to lead. When Martin and Malcolm and these brothers were out there doing their damn thing, they led from the front and kept nothing to themselves.
So what I'm hearing is you don't have a problem with what she's done. You have a problem with what she hasn't done.
I have a problem with what she's done and what she hasn't
But
done.
that's what I'm saying, though. Like, what is it that she has done to the detriment of the African American community? Like, because I'm not hearing it. Like, I'm hearing a whole lot of what she didn't do, and then I can hear that. But like, what is it that she did to the detriment of the African American community?
So let me ask you a question: is inaction violence?
I'm sorry. Can you reword?
So is someone's lack of action, would that still be perceived as a negative action?
I definitely think that it depends. Like, I think that knowledge of something, and if you know about it and you still do nothing, I do think that that's violence.
Okay, so in that instance, would you say that hoarding resources while knowing, as a social advocate and as an organizer, makes you complicit?
So are you saying that she knew?
What
I'm saying is that, like, there are multiple issues across the board that
So
she's supposed to be.
she can
I'm
be
still
free.
talking. I'm sorry.
Wait, hold up for a second. You asked me a question. Yes. Does she know? Yes. Yes, she knows. There's no way you're not plugged into the social activism network and you can't pick 3 causes to get behind. They work with a brother in Brooklyn who's a member of Black Lives Matter. I can throw 3 rocks at 3 organizations that deal with substance abuse, homelessness within the Black community, rape victims within the Black community, housing for Black women. So so the answer to that question is, am I mad about what she hasn't done? Correct. Am I mad about what they're still not doing? Correct. 100%. You claim to be in this community, which I'm starting to doubt within itself, and you haven't allocated any money to one thing yet? And then you're hiding in your house from punk ass Candace Owens? That's my beef.
Okay, but are you saying that she hasn't done anything? Because like I feel like the organization has done plenty of things. Like, and I feel like a lot of people are mad that they haven't done the things that like you think are most important yet.
So
and I think that's what I hold issue with, because like I think as a Black woman, like there's and maybe I'm personalizing, maybe I need to step back from the issue a little bit, but I kind of like I can't figure out why it rubs me the wrong way with this woman's criticism, and that's something that I'm going to think about more in the future. But like Black Lives Matter has done they have done so many things. Like I think I agree with you in the regard that like I don't think that they should have $1 million properties and everything like that, because those resources should be allocated to the community. But like I find that like the criticism of her and the organization is displaced sometimes. It's just like she's doing something and she hasn't gotten to the things that you think are important yet. You know, not saying that I'm not done. Not saying that it can't be done better, because I think that there's always room for improvement, but like to dog her and the organization, like I feel like I don't know if it's just because she's a Black woman, and I know that people are twice as hard on me as they are on my counterparts, that it like rubs me the wrong way and I need to step back from it, or like if this is something that like actually needs attention. Let me know.
So I'll let you know right now. As an organization, beyond the point of organizing, let's look at their mission statement and what they've accomplished since the death of George Floyd. Let research and data be your guide. I can say that it means shit to me that she's a Black woman. What it does mean to me, because I have the same smoke for Elijah Muhammad, I have the same smoke for Farrakhan. I can be woefully consistent in this. As a Black man at a certain age, I know a fraud when I see it. And the only way this will be course corrected, it means shit that she's a woman. What it does mean is you prop yourself as the leader beyond the point of organizing the rallies, the marches, and then the PR campaign to excuse behaviors that you know were detrimental to our community and impacted us directly, and then stuck with the narrative, well, we won't be debating the cost of realty versus a life. That man's family said, don't do this in our name. We're not responsible for bad actors that came in. We don't know who it is. It's your responsibility as an organizer to know who's amongst your ranks. It's your responsibility. If I put on an event with Cincy Star and we're going to go marching some stuff, we need to know who's with us. And this is what happens when we let children step into the place where they don't belong. And I got smoke for them. The receipts are out. Now, like I said, if they want to course correct beyond organizing, what they should do is just publicly acknowledge, like, hey, maybe we have been twiddling our thumbs and we got caught off guard with having this money. But we are going to, from this point forward, be working with other smaller organizations to get this money to the community that desperately needs it. I would have the same critique and have had the same critique of nonprofits since I have worked in the nonprofit sector. You're not speaking to a man who's emotionally charged because it's the thing to do on Wednesday night. You're speaking to a man that knows how these things go. I know that these banquet dinners that most of these organizations have, that money goes for the spread. It seldomly makes it to the people who need it. I'm saying that we as Black people need to hold Patrice and everyone in that organization accountable, because I don't give a shit what the Salvation Army is doing. I care what happens to Black people.
Oh, okay, but like that's my thing. Like they are donating to the community. So like they opened up about their taxes last year because there was a lot of scrutiny about where that $90 million was going, right? And so from the tax records of that they released and everything like that, it shows that by the middle of I want to say 2020, they had spent more than half of that money sending it to smaller organizations or things like that. So like I think that they're working on it. I don't think that that woman had any knowledge of how big it was going to get, and she's still trying to like get on her feet about it. I'm not going to say that she didn't allocate or that she didn't or that she did everything that she was supposed to do, but
The big guy love you like a fat kid loves cake. That woman had enough time to go out and buy a house and give one to her wife. She also paid her baby's father a sum total of $1 million for security.
bitch, have you ever had some money? Like,
We're not talking about what me and you would do.
Okay, but I'm saying she's
people,
a person. She's a person just like you're a person and just like I'm a person. And I don't know about you, but when I got a little bit of bread, like my first check from my traveling job where I finally didn't have to like, you know, decide whether or not I was going to buy food or gas that week. Bitch, like I didn't just go out and be like, oh yes, now that I've got a little bit of money, let me give it back to my community. That's something that I'm guilty of doing. Like now, I participate in different organizations and I help out with the money that I have or that I've saved and everything like that. But when I just got on, bitch, I had new purses, and I didn't mean to call you a bitch. I was a little passionate about that. I got some shoes. I bought a car. Like, have you ever had? Let me ask you a question.
That was your money that you earned from a job that you went to punch into that you are owed. She got money from the community. She got donations. That's a different standard. You're comparing. It's a false equivalency. What you get paid for doing a job are services, and you deserve to do whatever you want to do with that money. So if you want to go bad bitch with a bag with the money that you earned at your job, that's your right, DaVinci. When you get money, donations as a nonprofit from the community or donators, you don't get that same excuse. You don't get this is the first time I got money. So what now? You a shuckabucking coon? You got some money and the first thing you do is buy a house? You had enough wherewithal to go to the bank and put it down, right? You had enough wherewithal to go find you a realtor, had enough time to do that, but you didn't have enough time.
And you're right. You're right about that. Like, I definitely get it, but I feel like people are being harder on her than is necessary, you know?
Be hard on her. We should have been harder on Jesse Jackson. We should be hard on our leaders. Our expectations should be high. We have so much smoke for a man that we know is unmoralistic like Donald Trump, and we're all looking at this guy, and here we have people in our own community. Be hard on them. Be hard on them because they are supposed to be fighting for us. I have smoke for these people, not just Patrice, but for any organization that misuses allocations of like misallocates funds. Be hard on all of them. And my energy is not for you, DaVinci, but it is for you.
Yeah, I get it. I don't think that you're being. I know that you're passionate about the topic. Like, I think that maybe I need to step back from it because, like, maybe I'm a little triggered by it because I feel like people are constantly harder on Black women than they are on anyone else, like anyone. And so, like, maybe like,
okay,
I don't agree with homegirl. Like, I don't agree with how she did it, but I want to keep it like equal, like, because
you want to get her back. But here's the thing. I don't want to get any of their backs. I don't care if you're a black man or not. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you hurt the community, if you hurt You don't get to make the excuse. And Izzy, I love you like a fat kid loves cake. But white people doing wrong does not mean that we excuse black people doing wrong. So if
No,
we're going
and
by
you're
race,
right, but I don't see anything that she's done wrong yet. Like I don't see what you're saying that she did wrong. Are you saying that like buying the house with the funds allocated to Black Lives Matter, which was her organization, was wrong?
yes, 100%. You bought $1 million home with donations. You need to
What
explain that. You don't get to take. So if you're talking about being an organizer and taking a stipend, a surviving stipend, if you want to take a salary, yes, that makes perfect sense. But you got to explain why you needed a $1 million home when you're taking money that's supposed to better the community. The same way people asked about why Elijah Muhammad needed a beautiful home in Chicago. The same way we ask why pastors need to drive Crown Vics and Escalades. The same way we ask why Creflo Dollar needed a plane. We ask these questions because we're like, whoa, where's this money going to? Now
No, you're right.
She does not get a pass because she's a black woman. Because I hold black women in a higher standard because I actually see you as an equal. I see you equal in worth, value, but you're also equal in responsibility. And
No, you're definitely right.
But let me I'm woo Cincy, Bex, y'all tap in for a second. I'll be rude. Let me just turn off my camera for a sec. Oh boy.
He's got to hit the vape if you didn't know. Let me say this because I hold a stance that from many years ago, I personally do not support Black Lives Matter financially. The reason because of that is when I started doing my research and digging around, I saw the other foundations that they were supporting that on an individual level I would support. But if you're doing it on the backs of the Black community, I don't support that. So that was the first thing that turned me away from them. But I'm saying that to preface this because Steve knows, and I think Bex has been here long enough to know that I do not like that we are attacking this woman and this organization. And it's not because I feel like she did the right thing. And it's not because I'm trying to defend her doing the wrong thing. Is because I feel like it's extremely dangerous to publicly attack another Black person. And this is why I feel this way. When we first, all right, Steve, I'm gonna go back to a few weeks ago when Candace Owens asked for that apology.
Right.
In that apology, she asked you, or the audience, how do you think Black Lives Matter got so much support so quickly from this organization, that organization, that organization? Let me remind everybody that all that money that put into Black Lives Matter was white money. She didn't steal from us. I, to this day, honestly, don't know any Black person that's given more than $50 to Black Lives Matters because we've been a little bit suspicious of it. That $90 million, a percentage of it came from the Black community. If what we're holding up on is that she stole money that was supposed to go towards the Black community, what she did was steal money that the white community gave to her to go to the Black community. And hold on, Steve, let me finish up. But because this is my most important thing that I'm going to say. When you attack Black Lives Matter, if we as a collective, the 4 people here or the Black community are trying our best, and I'm not saying we're all doing it right, are trying to support the Black community, help it grow, help it flourish. When we go and ask for these donations, whether it's through a donor or grassroots through the community, the biggest donors are always going to be the people with the most money. And unfortunately, where we live in this country and pretty much in the rest of the world,
Mm-hmm.
that is white people. So when we attack Black Lives Matter, the organization, all four of us know every point you just made is towards the organization. But it's dangerous because the way that white people are going to view that is that we're attacking the slogan. And the most
Period.
important thing that Black Lives Matter did, whether they've donated as much money as they should or not, is got that slogan out to white people. And so and again, Steve, I know this is stressing you out. I'm not saying she's right.
No, it's I'm trying not to laugh, my brother, but continue.
No,
Continue.
because I'm definitely not saying she's right. Like I said before, I haven't supported them since I found out the other organizations that have nothing to do with Black people
Mm-hmm.
have came out. I just feel like it's dangerous for us to continually, in much the same way that you felt about our community attacking a brother that just passed away, it's dangerous to continue to attack our shit and not assume that white people aren't going to apply us attacking that organization to what the words Black Lives Matter actually stand for.
Period.
All right, let me rebuttal to that. Go ahead. Actually, Bex, you mind if I just rebuttal to that really quickly? Just really quickly while I have the thought fresh in my head. So this is a new phenomenon that I've noticed, right? When it comes to new age groups that younger people want to protect, this new phenomenon of we should not criticize Black people because these Black people in this movement means the most to me. But I can almost guarantee there isn't a person on this panel who has not said publicly something bad about other Black organizations. So let me just break that down and dissect that. Attacking Patrice, or let me say it accurately, rebuking them and stating facts about them is no different than Da Vinci saying that we need to protect women from violent men. And if Black men are amongst the violent men, then they need to be protected too. The difference here is we as a people don't want to roll back the idea that people think that Black lives don't matter. But I'm sorry, this organization didn't coin that, and they did nothing to further the conversation and to prevent Black lives. Because here's the truth. If they valued Black life, my good brothers and sisters, not only would they have smoke for the small percentage and valuable percentage comparatively of Black people who are killed wrongfully by the police, they would also have smoke in every other area where Black lives should matter. The second thing was you said something about the donation. A great majority of that money came from white donors, but you know where else it came from? Black celebrities. And unless you're excluding them from the Black community, then that makes that point invalid. But here's the problem. That's an organization that was supposed to be helping the community. So whether it be white money or whether it be Black money, if your point is that they are justified or excused in somehow and withholding the funds and sending them to where they're supposed to be because it's white money, then what you've actually said is it's okay if they get over on white people because it's white money.
Can Bex go?
Yeah. Oh, yep. I need a second. I got you though.
You said they didn't coin the term Black Lives Matter?
Bro, the term, the very fact that people think that Black Lives Matter was something that came up with Black Lives Matter, this has been something that people have been screaming since the 80s. Your parents screamed it. Many generations screamed it before. Why is this organization above rebuke?
I agree they didn't coin it, but I do think they put it on the map for real. And I agree that it's not a good look for us to be attacking each other. And the support for the movement is declining. And I don't know. I think that may do much more damage in the long run, Steve.
So let me ask you a question, Bex. Why is the support for the movement declining?
because of what's going on.
No, the support of the movement isn't declining because people are critiquing them. People would not critique them unless there was something to critique. I've heard more brothers from the Nation of Islam, a group that is notoriously quiet when it comes to this type of stuff in public, speak out against Black Lives Matter because they're like, wait, we need to be suspicious of this group. Not because they wanted something, but it's like, hey, hold your leaders accountable. And if your argument is that Black people shouldn't bad talk anyone, then guess what? Everyone get off Black Twitter. Jump ship. If your argument is that we should not speak negatively about Black people in public, then you're already guilty of it. Everyone here is guilty of it. But I'm not speaking negatively about Black people. I'm speaking negatively about an organization that owes Black people. The same way you would expect me to speak negatively about an organization that was white-based. We got quick energy for allies and all that shit. Why can't we critique people who are supposed to be leading us?
So
Why?
Did you ever answer the question, like, what outside agenda do you think she has?
So this is an obvious one, right? So I gave a long thought to it the other day. One of our first shows with Da Vinci on, and I tapped in with some older brothers, and I had to make sure I was responsible about this. And I was like, hey, can I ask you a question about the narrative that Black men don't protect Black women? I was like, this is a new concept to me. He was like, because I'm struggling. I want to look at the data. I want to make sure I'm seeing this accurately. So I asked the people that you should turn to in this, the generation prior, and men and women. And I'm not talking about people who are in these streets. I'm talking about the people who have built our community and made it possible for young Black people like yourself and myself at one point to maneuver. And I'm like, is this a thing that I'm not seeing? Do I have a blind spot? And they almost all said the same thing. They're like, I had never heard this concept prior to it being introduced around the George Floyd era. Patrice is a proponent, has preached that Black women are not protected by Black men. And whenever I press someone on that, I'm like, yo, show me the data. Show me the data where 4 out of 5 Black men don't protect Black women. Do you know what I always come back to? 85% of Black men marry Black women and stay married to Black women. So if you're trying to tell me that Black Lives Matter is now the new focal point of our community and they are above rebuke, then you are wildly inconsistent, because a Black person had a problem critiquing the Nation of Islam, the Black church, or any of those other groups. And we're talking about men who bought cars, Creflo Dollar topping out at the highest amount with a jet. And not one Black person said what you guys are saying on this panel right now, which is we shouldn't criticize Black people publicly. When did this new rule come in?
When people started doing that thing where they criticize something more harshly in a correct manner to hide their bias. Like, I don't know if you guys like watched Euphoria or anything like that, but I'm about to make a little example. Like, people would criticize Cassie differently than they would criticize Jules, and it was to hide their homophobia. Like, you know? So, like, while what Jules did was wrong, they were more at her throat because of their homophobia than because of the fact that she did something wrong.
So is the point here that because this organization is run and founded by 2 Black women, that they are being treated more harshly than any other Black person who has committed a possible act of fraud in history?
I think that is a part of it, yes.
Period.
So you would have to, okay, so now that you've made the claim, you would have to prove that. How long has Black Lives Matter been around in your estimation?
Like 4 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so cumulatively, do you think logically it makes sense to say that these women have been criticized more than, let's say, what's that fat black pastor's name that preaches positivity? And
TD Jakes.
Okay, so TD Jakes has been around for how long, would you say? How long has he been doing this thing?
A couple decades.
Do you know how often TD Jakes is criticized by not only popular black culture, but by black people harshly? So would you say that somehow, with all of those numbers being combined, years in total, that these two women have been criticized more harshly than TD Jakes?
Yeah.
You couldn't prove that if you try, and that's not a fact.
Okay, I gotta jump in and say this real quick, and it actually might have something to do with Da Vinci's topic that we brought here. Black Lives Matter is getting so far thrown in the trash can that if you ask me, in 2 or 3 years, it's going to be non-existent. TD Jakes has been doing this same shit for decades and is going nowhere.
And do you know why he's not going anywhere? Because people use that same argument that you tried to use to protect Black Lives Matter for TD Jakes.
But listen, I got smoke for all of them. I promise you. Wait, right there.
Acknowledge that, my brother. You don't agree that the people who are brainwashed by TD Jakes and Creflo Dollar, they don't use that same argument where we should not criticize these men because they're black men, and that's why they stay in that church?
They don't use that same argument.
So, okay, get ready for me to bombard you guys. You're a data person, Daviki. How much data would it take to convince you otherwise?
Give me 4 pieces of congruent data.
4 pieces of congruent data. I'll give you 12 of his own congregation saying almost verbatim the exact things you guys are saying. So what separates those brainwashed people from other brainwashed people who just won't simply say, hey, we need to get receipts and they need to do something? You guys aren't, I love y'all, but the argument that we shouldn't criticize them because they're black is nonsensical.
But Steve, and I'm gonna say this, the only way I can say it, it's not gonna be very poetic. I am telling you, as a person who does not support this organization, that I'm not necessarily down, even though I'm guilty of doing this in other instances, of downplaying the black community in front of company. Because I say I'm not down to do that in front of company does not mean I'm not down to do that in an actual conversation with the person I have an issue with. Now, we are talking about Black Lives Matter, a thought that's relatively new in our community.
Right.
You are talking about Creflo Dollar and other religious people who are not just brainwashed to Creflo Dollar, but to the religion itself. So there is no way you could present every single fact you wanted to them that they will ever even consider your argument.
Right.
That's not the same with what we're doing. Like even Da Vinci just mentioned earlier, she would take a step back and reevaluate her position on this argument. You're not going to get that from a Christian that's been following Creflo Dollar for 30 fucking years. Like, you're not.
So wait, let me see what if you're saying is if you were saying that the people who have been brainwashed for longer are harder to pull out than the people who are being indoctrinated newly, and if the argument is, so you're saying black people shouldn't criticize black people in mixed company, right? Is that no, that's what you said, brother. Is that what you're saying? Black people should not criticize black people in mixed company?
I'm saying that, all right. If we have an issue here, we can take this issue up with them personally. I can say, I literally just criticized this woman, but said, let's not tear her down. The reason that's a different view for me than it is for you is because while we're sitting here, and I know you said because white people is wrong doesn't mean we should allow our people to be wrong. But how many times, just even on this show, have we torn down black people? And every time that I bring up Black Lives Matter or Candace Owens or anybody else, have we shot down the idea that we don't spend any of this time, and white people don't spend any of this time tearing down white people? It's detrimental
Hold on
to
for a second.
our community to do this.
Wait, brother.
Let him finish.
Let me, please let me go on this rant for a second. We do this shit all the fucking time. Think about all the outlets that you have found this information on that is downgrading Black Lives Matter, because I literally work in the streets every day. Nobody ever talks about this shit. I'm watching the news, doing this every day. Do you know what outlets are tearing down, even with the face of a black woman, of Candace Owens, that's tearing down Black Lives Matter? You know this is all coming from white media.
Period.
That is a real issue. So my issue isn't saying we shouldn't stand up for the leaders in our community. Let's spend the same amount of time that we're giving to this black woman as we're giving to every other white person that's literally buying mansions off the backs of nonprofits. Like,
so bro, let me see if the argument, so this is the argument here, right? So it's not that she's done something wrong or could potentially have done anything wrong. So is your argument that we should spend that much time bringing down white people, that the black community should spend that much energy attacking organizations that have victimized it? Just give me a yes or no on that real quick.
The yes or no is yes, because that's exactly what Fox News is doing with Candace.
So let me roll it back for you 30 years. Right. Let me roll it back for you even 40 years. Do you not think that the Panthers spent as much time criticizing the system? Let me give you a little bit more. Do you think the organizations that came after them have not spent time throwing back energy at the system? Let me give you some more. You think people have not been out in the streets calling for the demise of the man as we know it for years? Who are these black people? Who are these black organizations that have not been coming at the white machine for years? You know who we haven't been coming at for years? Motherfucking race traders in our own community. Prove me wrong. You say we shouldn't critique black people in public, but yet we allow things like World Star to exist. We're mad about that white media with Fox News, right? But how often do you turn on TikTok and see little black kids doing things they should not be doing? You got energy for TikTok? Let me give you one better. Let me give you one better. Let's look at the black-made movies perpetuating negative stereotypes about black people. Where does this line begin and end? So I'll let you off the hook with this, right? And we can move on to the next subject.
Let him off the hook.
Yeah, for real, because you guys sound
let who off the hook?
You guys
because
sound wild. Yo, I've been waiting to say this for a hot minute. You got a blind spot because you're black. And
no, I don't think that we have a blind spot because we're black. I think we're looking at who is criticizing the organization to hide their racism. Okay, it's not. No, I'm not done. I'm not done.
But it doesn't matter.
Give me 1 second. Yes, it does matter. So give me one. Give me 1 second. I am saying something. If you'll let me finish.
Because if you're about to say, Vinky, my sister, if you're about to make the argument again, the circular argument that the information's coming from white people. So if the information is true, if it's facts,
I didn't say that.
Do you want the narrative or do you want the truth? Do you want to support a narrative or do you want the truth?
You didn't let me finish, and so I'm going to finish now. What I was saying is that like there are white people coming at this organization in an attempt to hide their racism. So not saying that the organization isn't doing something wrong, because
okay, I'm listening.
No, you're irritating me. I gotta mute.
I'm listening. The white folks are giving out the information, but you know what? The black folks are asking the questions. So unless you're trying to say I'm an Uncle Tom and I'm a race trader because I did more shit up in the community than most people alive, I didn't bled for my people. I got the motherfucking right to say that these people did us wrong. And I'm sorry, I'm not screaming at you guys, but yo, someone's got to be the one to stand up and be the reasonable one and say, yo, I don't care if Fox News is reporting on it.
Hey, and you know what, Steve? Like, I do commend you for that, because again, we at least me and you do not have a disagreement on whether what she's doing is right or fucking wrong. Like, we don't have a disagreement, and I know it's wrong because I literally do this shit every fucking day. My biggest issue is I really fucking genuinely hate that we have to do this. Like, I would much rather have this conversation,
right,
attacking about where them 30 fucking cents a day goes. I just would, because you know what? $90 million is a lot of money to us and to one of our organizations. $90 million is fucking McDonald's money to United Way. It's McDonald's money to Salvation Army.
Right.
And so, like I said, like, I don't disagree with you on the right or wrong thing. It's why I personally have been ignoring all DT Dub's request for us to do this, because I don't want to continue to do this. Like, and you know what? I'm gonna add this too, because it can be rectified.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're going to look at it from a business perspective, how you rectify it isn't coming out and making a statement. It isn't coming out and saying we're going to do this or give all the leftover money to whomever. You rectify it by removing her from her position and replacing the entire board of directors, and give it into the hands of another Black organization that might have more than 4 years experience doing this. And that's how you do it without having to continue to tear down this woman, without having to continue to tear down the slogan. Whether they created it or not, they made that slogan known. And you know, that's just my opinion on it, bro.
All right, so here's the thing. Let me hold you guys to an objective standard, but know that I love you, right? So if your stance moving forward, and I agree, that's a great way to go about it, Sensi. And I know you're out here in the streets doing the work, but here's the problem and the conundrum that you've presented. Then no one up here can ever say anything about Black men not protecting Black men in public again. Then those conversations are off the internet. I need you to go ahead and contact all the women with microphones, and I'll contact all the men with microphones, and no one says anything. Let's make sure we get on Black Twitter tonight and make sure we tell all our peoples no more talking negative about Black people. And then, in fact, let's go ahead and make sure we deconstruct the entire hip-hop industry while we're at that as well. And then let's make sure we pull every Black kid off that show Euphoria that have been over-sexualized and have been used so perverts can watch the show, right? Let's make sure we stay that consistent with this entire thing. Again, if anyone is struggling attacking this person because she's a woman, that's your presupposed proclivity. I, on the other hand, am not attacking her because she's a woman. I'm treating her equal because she's a leader. And here's the thing about the whole conversation about attacking organizations. We can attack any organization you want, but I will always pick truth over narrative, 100%. And Black people are owed that. We are owed that as a people. We've had too many fleecers amongst us. It's time we start rooting some of these people out. And until we start agreeing amongst ourselves that our dignity is worth more than the excuse, this is how people like this get over. So that's the standard. All right, everybody, you heard it here. Internet, Black internet is dead. Black Twitter's dead. Hip hop's dead. No more speaking ill of Black people in public anymore, because this is the standard we chose. And you can't backtrack on that. And you can't make an excuse. You can't. We have to, as a people, either choose to move forward with a joint morality, or we will fail. And the thing about the loudmouth that came at Martin Luther King, here's why that's different. Coretta Scott King forgave her husband, right? So that was a private matter that the feds made public, and Martin was wrong for what he did to his wife. But don't you ever think that we can compare this movement to that movement. There is no equal ground there. That is the greatest generation that Black people have ever known. Real heroes, and we're descendants of them. Black Lives Matter does not get to occupy that same mental space. They don't. They haven't proved it. They don't have the roots in the community. Maybe the brother in Brooklyn or the sister in friggin' Northern California that went to a Proud Boys rally and stood her ground 10 toes down. But this person sitting on a $1 million home, nah, I got smoke for them. And I got it all day long. And I got smoke for all the other organizations. Line them up. We can talk about them all. But you don't get a pass for being Black. I expect more of you. But what do you want to talk about next?
Do we have I'll jump into mine because I'm not sure if we got Da Vinci's video yet. This is a black ass show. Do you realize that? I don't think they would put this on any fucking cable air at all. But you know what? Fuck that.
They wouldn't.
Well, we can't put it on BT because that shit's not owned by Black people. So
okay, so I'm bringing up a topic: more accountability in our community. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. And y'all know I love to do this, like read a piece of the article. So I'm gonna continue to do this. Name of the article is Walmart apologizes for selling Juneteenth ice cream. This shit is, I mean, you can't make this shit up. Walmart's attempt to commemorate Juneteenth with a new ice cream didn't go over so well. The company is apologizing for selling Celebration Edition Juneteenth ice cream under its Great Value label. Share and celebrate African American culture, emancipation, and enduring hope is what the label on the ice cream said. Juneteenth marks a holiday, marks a celebration of freedom and independence. Okay, that's all I'm gonna read. That's because I'm ready to go off on this shit.
go for it, man. Go for it.
If I go off too soon, I'm gonna forget the name. All right. At Walmart, they sell also a Black-owned ice cream with the exact same flavor as the Juneteenth Walmart Great fucking Value brand. If you would like to look up the company, it's called Creamalicious Ice Cream. Black-owned ice cream company. All right. I got that out of the way. Juneteenth has not even been 1 year in the rotation as a nationally acknowledged holiday. And this is what we're doing? Already, we're taking, not we, corporations are taking advantage of this. Walmart pulls down this ice cream because they get backlash because they have another Black-owned ice cream that they are a distributor for. So they just as easily, instead of trying to sell their own Juneteenth ice cream, could have put on a Black-owned ice cream company. It's true. What my question and my issue with this is, how do we continue to let this shit happen? How do we continue to let white organizations market our culture? Because you know what? If this whole thing wouldn't have happened with Walmart, I can promise you 99% of Black people wouldn't have known there was a Black-owned ice cream company.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I see this and I get to thinking, Grandpa Fro, Juneteenth ice cream, that's because you're from fucking Canada, so you would think Juneteenth ice cream is lit. I'm sorry, I had to take a shot there. Okay, first let me go into June. Juneteenth isn't the celebration of the freedom of Black people in America. It's the celebration of the final state in America saying that slavery was abolished, which was Texas. That's no offense, but I say Texas to bring into my next point. We just got back from a trip in Texas. I loved it. I love Dallas. I thought it was a beautiful city with a lot of culture. In my experience in Dallas, I saw more Latin descendant people than I ever have in my whole entire life. Not just at one time, but in one night, more than in my entire life. I wish I had that more diverse experience more often. But what got me to really fucking thinking was that on my day-to-day life in Cincinnati, I might see one person of Latin descent. Might see one. But within walking distance of my house, there are 2 Latin markets owned and operated by Latin people. What the fuck are we doing in a city that is 49% African American Black people that we don't have one single fucking grocery store? Not one. And not just like one in a neighborhood. There's 2. Again, 2 Latin markets in my neighborhood, and I never, ever, ever, ever see Latin people, but I see Black people every day. What the fuck is the problem in our culture, in our upbringing, that we do not fucking really own our shit? And like, I know it's not a topic, it's not a video. Like, it when I read that shit and started thinking about it and the experience I had in my daily life, how are we dropping the ball this bad? Because we're mad as hell at Walmart for trying to sell some Juneteenth ice cream, but we didn't even know Walmart sold Black-owned ice cream.
Preach.
How are we mad as hell that we have to go shop at Kroger's, and Kroger's leaves food deserts all across the country in Black communities, but we don't have a Black grocery store?
Oh, what do you mean by that? Like, we used to have several Black owned grocery stores, and do you know what happens to them?
They got burnt the fuck down. That's what happened.
Period. Yeah, like they get burnt the fuck down, or bought the fuck out because they can't afford to stay in that area anymore, or like, they either get hit with those what is it called again? Where they come to the, well, this just happened to my favorite Jamaican spot, and that's why I'm kind of hot about it. But like, they would bring in like things that they're not supposed to have, but things that are like native to like Jamaica or whatever, and then they get shut down for that shit. But it's stuff that, like, Jamaicans want, and they want to cook with, and they want to eat with here, but they're not allowed in the United States. And that's what the fuck happens to them. Because, like, do y'all remember? Because my grandmother and I, we would shop at the fucking Piggly Wiggly. We would shop at the HG. What was that grocery store called? And they would have like lots of things that like Black people, or the African store, like where they sell all of like the raw materials. Do y'all know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, no. Yeah, definitely.
Or like I don't want to call it the immigrant store, but I don't know what else to call it because they never have names. you know where you buy the things that like every single black household has or immigrant household has, like, you know, that one blanket, like there's like 5 different prints. There's like one of the wolf. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. It's right next to the picture of the black people with the afros, the oil paintings. Yes, that community
those
store. Yes,
and they always shut those the fuck down. And then they just pop up somewhere else, but they never get a chance to grow to where they would be at a level where they would threaten places like Walmart or things like that. Because we definitely shop at those places. Like, I buy all my hair supplies from a beauty supply store that's owned by a black woman.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And it's a different one from the one that I shopped at last year when I lived here, because that one shut down.
Yeah.
It'll just pop up somewhere else under a different name because they're never allowed to get to the point where they're big enough to threaten a place like Walmart.
Okay, so I do have to ask this, and this is gonna be this. If it sounds ignorant, I apologize, because I'm genuinely asking this. We have been, since basically freedom, quote unquote freedom, the bane of white people's fucking issues. In recent time, not necessarily to the same historical value, but to the same public expressive manner, so have Latin people. So my question is, how can they keep their markets open when the same people that are, we're saying is shutting down our markets don't like them the same amount? How do they keep their shit open and we can't? And
nigga, because they dislike them. They dislike us more than they dislike them. Like, why is that even a question?
No, because I actually have to come at you for this, DaVinci. The reason is not because, and I will say they dislike us, etc. I agree with you on that part. The problem is we don't go to those markets in mass. Hispanic people, excuse me if that's the wrong way to say it, they do. Our people only support going to our market when we need something that we can only get from our market. So of course they got to close down and set up shop somewhere here and somewhere there, because they're constantly never getting enough business to stay open. And I'm not saying that the odds aren't set against them. What I am saying, in a conversation that me and Steve just had last night on our other show, not my man, because I actually hate this piece of shit motherfucker, J-Rod owns 6-7 clubs, a gas station, and some more shit. Do you know all those things that he owns? He could easily invest in a corner store, a fucking grocery store, anything other than a club. Anything other than a club. And before you jump in and say, well, they don't want to shut down his clubs because it's detrimental to black people, they've been trying to shut down his clubs because it's detrimental to the communities that he builds them in. No one's shutting down the black-owned grocery store because they're shutting it down because we never go to the black-owned grocery store. We don't go to the black-owned clothing line. We buy Nike. We don't buy fucking black-owned fucking outerwear. Shout out to Where's My Hat, because I do. But like I'm trying to say, we don't. White people are not the only ones that shut our shit down. We shut our shit down because we buy white people shit.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, Cincy. But what you're talking about is like a generational frustration, because you came up in a time where there was a black grocery store. There was these things in the focal point of the community. You're right. By and large, they stopped being supported. Like, if you look what happened with Harlem, right? Gentrification is a huge issue that happened to Harlem, but also not controlling our own dollars is a huge issue right? Not investing it back into the community, not educating ourselves on how to keep things the way that we need to keep them. And then the victimization that comes with it. When you think about things like redlining, most people weren't interested in living in Harlem for years. The same 2 train has run through my neighborhood for years. The same A and C train has run through the neighborhood, and the 1 train. People who went to Columbia stayed on the west side, and the people who lived in Harlem lived in Harlem. The issue was the people we trusted and needed to, like the people who owned the buildings, if they were African Americans, it was black flight. People started selling their property because they wanted to be somewhere different. Maybe they wanted something better for their family. Now the question becomes, how do we reverse it? Well, we start doing what you see a lot of young black entrepreneurs doing, setting up black wealth for the next generation. But that requires people to do something that maybe they don't feel safe doing anymore, which is trusting that people are going to have their back. And I think that we're starting to see a turn on it. But like even the thing with the ice cream right here, like, why wouldn't you buy a black ice cream? Is it delicious? Is it good? Why wouldn't you? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, these are questions we need to have answered. Why wouldn't you support the local shop? You know what I'm saying? I know some of these shops. Remember back in the day, you're from the Midwest, you would know this. Remember the airbrushing shops all up and down the Midwest, where these brothers would make rhinestone hats and they would airbrush your kicks for you. You could have a bum pair of sneakers and you'd go in, get your joints hooked up, and you feel good about it. I think the reason that we start seeing people support these things is because there's 2 external enemies. There's 2 enemies. The external ones that want that property because they want to build high rises on it, and the enemy that decided, like, I'm not going to support. Now, the minute we start doing what you're saying, which is, hey, let's promote our stuff to each other and support each other, that's when this thing will start turning around, man. That's when it turns around. People have to be willing to buy these things, and they have to be items of quality. Now, I'm not a woman, and unlike certain politicians, I know what a woman is, and I know that women, when they shop, African American sisters specifically, when they shop in these places, one of the complaints that they will usually have back in the day was like, I wanted to support this shop, I wanted to go get my hair done here, but they weren't doing it right. You know what I'm saying? Or they were overcharging me, or they weren't using the quality of, and this is not shaded at anyone, they weren't using the quality of I don't know how the technology, Bex jokes on me all the time when I use this word, I don't know how the technology works. They weren't using the quality of braid that I wanted when I went there. They weren't getting it from the same place, so I stopped going there. Black people got to have that freedom too, but we got to know if they are doing quality work, we got to stick by these people. Make sense? You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to stick by them. Mm-hmm. We got to support these smaller businesses. What do you think,
Have
Bex?
we not seen a change though? Like, you haven't seen a change?
I think we have. I think we have, but not large enough where I think it's making a dent though. You know, you tell me, Bex, what do you think?
Not large enough where it hasn't made a dent. Why do you think that is though?
Well, let me reverse it. How large has the impression been now, do you think? Do you think that it's been a substantial change and people are in droves supporting more Black businesses?
I think so. I see it, like, for myself every day. I see it. And the people that I see owning these Black businesses are mostly Black women.
Let me ask you a question. Are these places in your local community?
Yes.
All right. Outside, and without doxing yourself, what area are you in again?
I am in the DMV.
Okay. You're familiar, you bust a lot of jokes on New York. Are you familiar with the 2 young brothers that started a bank in Harlem?
No, I'm not.
All right, so this was big news when this happened, right? And this goes counter to the narrative. But these 2 young Black men started a bank, and they were trying to help Black people not fall into the trap of predatory loaning and high financing and rates. And they held seminars, and they did events, and they welcomed the community in. Do you know what happened?
What happened?
people didn't show up.
Hmm.
People trusted where they were at with Bank of America, or ironically enough, Wells Fargo. Now, I'm not saying that it's only black women starting these businesses, because that would have to be proved. I'm happy that black women are starting businesses, but what Cincy is talking about is, why aren't these businesses sustaining and staying, and how do we keep them around for generations?
Bro, I hate this narrative that like black capitalism will save you. It won't. Like I think about Africa and how Africa has like African corporations, African judges, African police, African president, and yet like the masses of people there are still poor and struggling, and I'm not saying that's all of Africa, because that's like an excellent job of propaganda done by the West to make like everybody believe that Africa is just like this poor degenerate place and everything like that. But like, you know, there's a large population of Africans that are still poor and struggling and oppressed, but like they have their own businesses and all that kind of stuff like that. But like, you know, black capitalism is not what's gonna save us, because like there are various structures in place to make sure that doesn't happen. And so like I kind of get frustrated, like, because I'm glad I see my brothers and sisters owning businesses and everything like that and doing well, and I'm sorry that like I guess we're not shopping those places the level that we should be. I think that's partly due to exposure. I think it's partly due to other variables such as those that you mentioned earlier, like the quality of it or the price of it. Because I try to shop black, and there's a couple of places that I really like, but I'm not gonna spend $300 on a dress. Like I'm not gonna do that. But there's various institutions in place, and like I feel like after we address those institutions, maybe you guys can circle back to the black capitalism angle. But like I really just don't feel like that's the place that we should be looking at right now, you know?
I mean, it's funny that you bring up the Africa. And yes, I understand what you're saying. It's funny that you bring up the continent of Africa, and we were just having a conversation the other night about this, but I'm not going to drop that nuclear bomb right now because it's appropriate, but you know, why do that? But if it's not capitalism, like, and if we're not just buying into the theory of like the concept of capitalism and that ideology, the question then becomes, how do we take charge of our own destiny in these regards? And I think the reason that people turn to businesses so often is because that is a way that they view sustainability and a foundation, and not just comfort, but it's appears to be how the other groups are succeeding, right? And that's why for me it's less about, and I get what you're saying, it can't be divorced. Davinci, let me concede the point before I go down this philosophical tirade. But at some point we have to be like foundation thinking about this. Like, so yes, my sucker ass is usually going to be the guy when I'm walking through Harlem, like, give me the candy bar, here's the donation, give me the shirt, give me the unk. I don't even burn incense anymore. Give me all of that stuff. I'm walking down 125th Street and I want to spread the money through the community. And it's not because of guilt, but because I want to do that to help. That's not what I'm arguing against here. What I am saying, though, however, is that we have to feel not ashamed to have this town square conversation on how to fix it, right? Like, all right, so if black women are leading the charge with businesses, guess where I'll be sending some money to? Those black women. It don't matter to me that they're women, but if it's going to help them, I'm sending it, as long as it's ethical. Like, I'm sending the money. The check is in the mail. I'm going to support your business. I wear a praise shirt all the time, not because I'm a super Christian. I mean, you know,
You
but
are.
it's a black owned business, and And DaVinci's right. It's not that capitalism is going to save us, because if that was the thing that was going to fix the world, it would have fixed it by now, or more people would have bought into it. I just want to be able to make sure that
and
I'm
not
supporting
descend into fascism, you know, or
exactly. No, and that's a true point.
And I would like to jump in real quick and also say that I agree. I don't feel like capitalism will save us. What really about this whole thing that triggered me was that we spend more time and energy getting mad at Walmart and other companies for trying to capitalize on our shit than we do promoting our shit.
Good point.
And that's what triggered me more than
you mean. I'm so confused.
Okay.
Because have you guys not seen the algorithms that are used to promote these things and how they're biased against us? Like there is literally racism in algorithms now, because racism is advancing with us, so we need to attack racism and not like these various other things. Like, you know, there are Black people on TikTok and they have businesses and they have products and everything like that, but the algorithm suppresses them. And like I have a book about this. I finished it like last year, and I did a live about it too, but it's that racism is adjusting with us. You know, there's no understanding of class. There's no understanding of the small things that colonization made possible, and how those follow and how they grow. So these things continue to adapt with us. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, because that's a beautiful fucking point. And I guess what I'm saying, we all grew up a similar way. And we had grandparents and mothers, some of us had fathers that told us that to make it in this world, you're going to have to try 10 times harder than they have to try. So I'm not disagreeing with you that social media and etc. tries to hold back what we can do. What I am saying is that I see posts every day of Black-owned companies in just my neighborhood, in my city, on Facebook, with no shares, a couple shares, a few shares. So we can blame Facebook or IG for not promoting our shit, but when it does pop up, who's to blame when you don't share that shit?
It's a good point. I mean, it's a good point. It's a good point. Or not. I think that it boils down to also not supporting each other. But there are networks now, like the link you just posted in the group. I've seen that floating around before. There are networks. I think one thing that I like that I see a lot of smaller Black-owned businesses doing. If you usually go into a place where you're going to get your hair dreaded or something like that, or a restaurant, you ever notice they have a bulletin board and it have flyers from other places and stuff like that? That needs, that more of that needs to happen. And then also to address the racism part, I think this is where this train of thought comes from. If we have power, then they won't be able to take it away from us. And I think we still work off of that premise that if we are solidified and we have power and we control our own power, then that's going to be the best way to combat against it. Now, maybe that is a false maybe that's a false hope and a false dream. But it apparently works for the Orthodox Jewish community, right? Like, here is a group in upstate New York, owns multiple acres, different lands, all living together. And do you know what they have? They have a hospital. They have schools. They spend their dollars where they choose, right? They support the last place that makes the bread. Someone help me out here, man. What is the bread that they eat during Passover? Anyway, the last surviving place that makes that in America is in upstate New York. And whenever Passover comes, their order log is so large because they're supporting America and Israel. And you know why that is? Because they support each other, and they know that that small infrastructure that they have is the best chance they have of staving off anyone taking over their community. It's the same way with if you're from California, you know this, the Armenian community. They've implemented the same plan, and it seems to work for them. I think since he's asking the question, why can't we stick to that? Or do you think that we just need more time to be practicing it?
What do you mean? Like, how many generations are we removed from them burning our institutions? How
Three.
many
Only
generations?
3.
Okay, and that's what I'm saying. Like, how many generations are we removed from that? Like, how much time have we had to recoup anything? Like, Black people did that too. Black people, we had our own little Wall Street, had our own little bakery, like doing the thing. And every single time, what happened to it? What did Central Park used to be? What did Lake Lanier used to be? Like, I don't know how many times were they gonna burn our shit down? Like, and we'd be like, oh well, that was a burn-in. Like, let's do it again. Like, people lose hope sometimes, and you have to have sympathy for them, and you have to have understanding for the trauma that the collective community has gone through. And like, I'm not saying that we can't still try to come up from that, but like, you can't compare it to other communities where like they didn't just flat out burn their shit, or they didn't just like, I don't know if you guys remember what happened to the Pruitt-Igoe neighborhood and the Monsanto chemical company, where they were just spraying fucking chemicals that killed people in the Pruitt-Igoe neighborhood, the Monsanto chemical company. Like, how many times does that happen before people are just like, oh yeah, I recognize revolution should happen, but I really don't want my family to die. Oh, I recognize revolution should happen, and I recognize we should help each other out, but like, I really want to live in a nice house, and I really want to live a soft, like, flower petal ass life. Like, like, how many times does that happen? Like, I understand that like somebody has to give up something for something to change, and nobody wants to do that. But like, I just wish people had a little bit more sympathy for.
Can I ask you a question, Ricky? I've heard you say this before. You wish people had more sympathy for people that are still going through the process of healing from trauma.
Right.
Am I hearing you correctly?
Right,
Okay.
because we talked about it in our gaslighting episode, how like, people will be like, oh, that didn't happen. I was just telling you about how they only spent a month teaching me about Black history in high school, and they only discussed the basics. Rosa Parks, W.E.B. Du Bois, Martin Luther King. Like, that was the entirety of the scope of my understanding of like African American history in the Americas, like, and how if I wanted to know anything about it, I had to learn it myself. Do you think they would have taught me about the fucking Pruitt-Igoe neighborhood and the Monsanto chemical company? Like, no, they didn't do that. I had to do it myself. And on top of that, like, I can't even begin to think about how much I would not know if I didn't have like the luxury of time now. Like, I only work 3 days a week, and that's how I can afford to do all this like knowledge collection. There are people in my community who don't have that, who have never had that, whose parents never had that. So I just wish people would be like a little bit more sympathetic to people who are just learning the atrocities that they've been subjected to.
Let me ask you this question, right? In the healing process, like therapeutically, when someone's recovering from trauma, how much time do you think it typically takes before we get into the action plan in dealing with trauma?
Now, I definitely think that it's different for each person, For me, especially because like I'm very used to like compartmentalizing things and kind of like detaching from it in order to be able to process it. It took me a couple years. I'm gonna say it took me about 10 years to even get to the point where I could speak about it with some literacy.
Okay, and these are not Gotham questions because I have a point, but and in the healing and in dealing with the trauma within the Black community, would you say there needs to be some type of unification, maybe some forgiveness extended within the community? Like we're just talking about within our community. How does that healing start? Do we start by, say, for instance, looking at scabs in the community, open wounds, and where does the healing begin? Where do you think it needs to be pointed to most? You Bex and Cincy, like if we're all sitting here and we're trying to figure out how we can be empathetic and how we can heal the community, then the question becomes like, where do we start that process, right? Because it can't just stay at empathy, right? We can't, when someone hurts themselves by falling down, we may help them up, and if we're moving forward, we know at some point we either have to splint the leg if it's damaged, or we have to carry them for an extended time to a point. So at what point do you guys think this healing process becomes a joint healing process versus an individual? And what does that look like?
Okay, so that was a very large question. I have my own opinions about it, but I know in no way, shape, or form am I qualified to answer this question for the whole community. So I can only give like my opinion. In my opinion, I think that you should start healing from these wounds like before you have kids. You know, before you have the opportunity to pass that hurt on to your kids. So you need, before you think about having kids or things like that, like you need to be breaking it down for yourself so you don't pass on these biases to anybody else, or like at least like if you need to see a therapist about it, because I know our community is very like iffy about therapy, and rightfully so, because we have a very cagey history with healthcare and them selling us things that like we wasn't asking for. Like
Right.
I understand like maybe getting to the point where you can approach somebody, or maybe getting to the point where you can unravel your thoughts about what's happened to your people, what's happened to your community, like with the friend first, maybe then a professional, and taking that time to break it down first. I think that's the first step. Like, and once we get to a point where we can talk about these things, like, you know, where it's pretty commonplace to where we can talk about it, then I think that we can start like, you know, pointing our fingers and being like, oh, hey, this happened 50 years ago, and this looks like what you're doing now. If we don't want what happened 50 years ago to happen now, maybe we should stop this. You know what I mean? Or am I just
No,
rambling? Because I've got thoughts.
No, because you're talking. No, that makes sense. Like individually going through a therapeutic process to deal with trauma, so you don't pass it on. Some people would call that generational curses, passing on generational trauma. That all makes sense. What do you think,
I
Bex?
agree with that 100%. Acknowledgement is the first thing for me. A lot of people don't like to acknowledge that there needs to be healing involved. A lot of people don't like to acknowledge that they are hurt in the first place. So that's
Period.
like the first thing for me. You need to acknowledge what the fuck is going on, and you need to acknowledge what the problem is. And after that acknowledgement, I think that's when education comes into play too. You need to educate yourself on what the fuck is going on.
So
Yeah.
let me ask you this question: do you think that education should be individualized, or say, for instance, do you think that people should be educated together to grow as a community?
I do not trust a schooling system like the one that we have now to
Mhm.
educate young Black kids about African American history until we undo the biases that still oppress African American adults.
What if it
I
was a
don't
school?
trust them.
What if it was a school run by Black people?
What do you
And it
mean? It
wasn't-
doesn't matter if it's a school run by Black people because they're still reporting to like the same like board. You know what I mean?
What if it's community rec centers? Like, let's say, for instance, what before he went off the deep end, what Brother Umar Johnson was doing, meeting with parents. He's a licensed MFT. So whatever you might think of his Pan-African views, the man is qualified at the highest levels to help people deal with trauma within the family unit. Specifically, do you think that Black people should start meeting and understanding what the problem is, or do we all get our own individual understanding of what the problem is and stay separated?
At the end of the day, it's going to have to start at home first anyway. So, yeah.
And then do you think at what point do we meet up? Is there a shared plan, or do we just all stay individual?
We all have to be on the same page for it to be a shared plan.
And then, so for us to be on the same page, at what point do we start looking at things and going like, okay, for a community to exist, I don't know, we have to have a joint ethic, maybe. Like we have to agree on some things and disagree on the same things. Like, what point how long do you think it takes that process to play out?
It's not happening in my lifetime.
But that's my point. It's like even tonight, like what we're doing on this show, right? Chances of this going up viral on Black YouTube, that's what we want, right? We want to be in that demographic where we hear Black people have us having this conversation. So at what point do we move out of healing, right? And we move into healing together, right? Because even when you do couples therapy, they may split you for a little bit. And then they say, hey, we got to bring you back together so we can bind this thing and land it so you have a shared plan. Now, we're Black people supposed to meet to have this shared plan. How long do we wait till we elect something where it's like, hey, we have to meet in what is it, a town hall? You know what I'm saying? Like, it can't be Black Twitter, right? But there has to be a point where we all come together, I would think, and say, hey, we got to agree on some things now to move forward to complete this healing process, right? We can't stay in sympathy mode forever, even though I think it's vital. Like, we got to deal with traumas. Black people need to go see therapists. I agree with that. But even solution-based therapy, your therapist looks up one day like, hey, Bex, it's been 47 months now. I think we've made some amazing strides. We're going to dial it back from 3 meetings a week to 1 meeting a week, because I think you can start practicing some of these things in the real world. What do you think? I don't know. Like, at some point we have to start moving the healing process. Like, let's get into it, but we got to move it forward, right? There's not a lack of empathy, but if we have scragglers, don't we have to agree that they're scragglers? Or do we just keep saying like, man, that poor guy, well, I hope he starts his healing soon, and just keep walking on? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, or do we as a community go, man, that poor guy, let's make sure we build some type of infrastructure so we can get that poor guy off the street, and he can get to that healing, but that's going to take our dollars to do that. Like, we're going to have to agree on some things. Like, we have to start building back, and I think we have done that. Am I wrong? Or like, if
no, I'm wrong, you're not wrong, but it's just like, I really don't see any situation in where we get to do something like that and it will last if we don't address like the root of the problem first. Because if you just cut the flower off of a plant, like, and the roots are still there, it's gonna grow back, So like, if we don't address racism in our country, if we don't address like the systemic racism, like in our country, like, just because you don't see it anymore because the flower is cut off of it doesn't mean that the roots aren't still there and that it won't grow back and traumatize future generations. And so that's why addressing racism right now is the most important thing to me, because then I feel like if, like Beck said, we can acknowledge what's happened, then you can root out where that looks like in different corporations or different policies. Like you can look at applications for apartments where it says state your race, and it's just like, why is that applicable when I'm buying an apartment? Like, we need to root those things out first, you know?
And I agree with you. I just got to ask this question, and I know you're all going to roll your eyes. Does that mean we need to have, I don't know, advocates, leaders? And should those people be trustworthy? Are we putting trust on people to speak on our behalf?
Steve,
you gonna make me mad.
You are a motherfucker. You know that.
You gonna make me mad.
Wait, hold on for a second. I know I'm old. My birthday's on Monday. Remember, drop the Cash App. Your boy needs to get Depends so he doesn't pee on himself. But I just think I just had an epiphany right now. So we need to start healing individually. We need to address structural racism, historical and systemic present day racism on all its levels. So that means that we're going to have to get together. We're going to have to heal, get together, prepare for the fight externally. That means we're going to need elected representatives that speak on our behalf, because we're not all going to be invited. And there's some people who should be speaking on. We don't want Nook coming to the table talking about why is this question on the thing. He's not going to be able to land it the way we want it to. So that means we got to get leaders that we trust. We're going to have money to support these leaders. That means that the money's got to be accounted for, so the healing can be paid for, so the trauma can be addressed, and we can fight the racism. Now it sounds like
I'm about to pull up on you, because you really like you really about to make me mad, bro. Like,
now I'm not saying I'm that guy. I'm probably gonna die, in a few years or so. You know what I'm saying? Chances are, like, after dropping this science, I'm gonna keel over, and then y'all gonna talk bad about me on the internet, and I accept that. Someone's gonna make, look at this coon ass motherfucker's videos he did on Twitch. But it sounds like to me like we have to address our pain, acknowledge the past, come together as a community, control our dollars, have people we trust who are taking care of our vested interests to help us fight off a war we've been fighting for 400 years, which means we need to be able to protect ourselves, learn how to use arms, have the money to pay for guns, and address the commercial and structural racism that could turn on us any day so we don't go through Tulsa. So if that's what we're talking about, then that sounds like we need to come together as a community, and there's some things we just don't have time to do. We're not going to agree on everything, but we got to start agreeing on some things. Or am I wrong? Did you guys think I was going to turn this back to a Black Lives Matter thing?
No,
I wouldn't do that to you guys.
You would. You definitely would, but
shame on you for thinking that I would troll my beloved friends.
You would.
I wouldn't. I'm not here for that. I'm here for the conversation. Bex, why
Steve, I'm going to choke you.
Like, why? Who are you texting? Get off the phone. They'll never find me. I don't live where you think I do. You'll never get me turned in. But like,
take the shot.
Take the shot. Take them out now. This has been Steve on Dope Dynamics. I've never been so right in my life. You guys can enjoy my PFP for the rest of the show.
I'm gonna strangle him. I'm gonna strangle him.
A real fucking piece of work, Steve.
Oh my god.
Yo, I do want to talk get to Bex. I know this is a long show, but it's the recap of the episode. I want to get to the thing that DaVinci was talking about, and Bex, if you have some, I want to get to that as well. So, folks, thank you for sticking it out, but this is also for a replay. So let's talk about the who wants to go next, DaVinci or Bex? Who's ready?
Oh,
Bex, you can go.
Unprepared, so I don't have anything.
See, you're already out, Bex. You're
stated
out.
this in the beginning.
So you should have started your healing.
What
earlier.
do you mean? It's not like I'm not bringing anything to the table. So
no, you are the table. You are the table. You bring all the stuff to the table. You're my sister, and I love you. DaVinci, are you ready? Because I'm excluding Black people right now, so you better be ready
to strangle you. Yes, I'm ready to strangle you.
Okay. Let's get it. What do you got for us, sister?
Got violent tendencies I need to work on. I need to call Solomon after this. Anyways, I was trying to find that video, but then I got so caught up in what everybody was saying. So I don't have the video, but I think everybody's been following the case of Amber Heard and Johnny Depp and all the intricacies of that. And like I was just kind of sitting back and looking at like all of the memes and like the dialogue happening about Amber and things like that, because I definitely believe like she was wrong and she should face the repercussions of her actions. But I couldn't help but notice that they were coming down on Amber pretty hard compared to how they were coming down on, say, a Chris Brown. And I don't know if you guys are up on the TikTok beef, but like, I don't know if you guys remember Sienna and what she did and how her platform suffered versus various other men on the platform who have had allegations, who continue to have a platform that thrives. So like, I kind of wanted to hear you guys' thoughts on that.
Who's Sienna?
This bitch on TikTok. I didn't mean to call her a bitch, but I'm a little heated. But it's this girl on TikTok. She's this kind of influencer and everything like that. And she got caught up in a sexual assault allegation. And I don't even want to say that it's an allegation, because there's a video of several instances where she made the other person in that situation feel what's the word I'm looking for? Uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So like, the way that she was deplatformed, the way that I saw the Sienna slander, the way that like her following count like just plummeted afterwards, like rightfully so. I don't believe she deserved to have a platform, but there are other men on the platform or other men on the app who get to keep their platform after coming out with videos like, oh, well, I'm not perfect and this is something that I did in my past. Like actually admitting that they did the thing and they want the support of their following and everything, got to keep their platform. Like same thing with Chris Brown, like, you know, little apology after everything settled and homeboy is back to making music. Like I feel like people have a very short memory. Same thing with Trey Songz, really, because he's got multiple allegations of sexual assault and everything like that. And that man's allowed to still have a thriving community. Also, like, I don't know if you guys remember what happened with Megan Thee Stallion and Tory Lanez and like the slander that I saw of Megan after that.
No, it's true. Do you know, is the video in the Discord? Because I want to play it for the audience. If you know which one it is, I'll drop it. Don't get distracted, but keep going.
I definitely got distracted because you pissed me the fuck off.
No, yo, but here's the thing, right? You didn't say nothing wrong. So the Chris Brown thing is a very peculiar thing, right? So do we all remember the images of Rihanna, obviously, after that situation?
Yeah.
And extremely brutal. Obviously, there's nothing you can say to justify whatever. You know, I've heard this narrative like, well, what did she say or what did she do? Were they fighting and how? Well, whatever it was, like he hit her like she was a man. He fought her like she was a man, and unless she had like a knife or a gun on him, which obviously the police didn't find, there's no excuse for that. I don't know how Chris Brown got away with it. Like I'm saying, I know how he got away with it, but I don't know how legally he got away with that. I'm trying to search my memory. Were there did she press charges? Did she pursue this in the court of law, anything like that?
I remember him going to court, but
Right? It's the Mandela effect. Can anyone tell me how that played out?
If I remember correctly, the only way that it ended up turning out in his favor, and I said it very lightly, I think he got off because there was speculation that she was also physically aggressive with him, and that kind of killed the whole thing as far as in the court system.
Now, see, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. Now, let me concede a point right here. This is why Black women don't feel protected by the legal system, right? You know what I'm saying? Because obviously, I don't know who his lawyer was. I don't know what deal. Someone struck a deal, right? The charge got dropped, or he pled to something, because there's no way he should have walked away from that. Now, the Trey Songz things, we got to be careful, right? Because you guys still say allegedly until charges are brought up. But have y'all heard like some of this? He's on like Rick James times 20 allegedly.
Yeah.
Like stuff. So I don't know what's going on there. And there's also a new narrative that's popped up where I'm really trying to understand this, but I'm not taking shots at anyone in the panel. There's a certain group of men, and it's not just those red pill fellas that are trying to defend R. Kelly now. And I don't know where all this is coming from, this stuff, but DaVinci, is your point that there's an unbalanced like consequence for women when it comes to like these assault allegations or otherwise?
Yeah, kind of. It's something that I've noticed myself, but also like I was reading a little bit of literature about it, and if you were in my server this week, I posted some of the books that I read last week concerning those things, and I even think I brought it up in our episode on Sunday. I can't remember which book I brought up. No, yes, I do. I talked about the book, Why Do So Many Incompetent Men Become Leaders, and How to Fix It. Also, I brought up the end of bias and Invisible Woman with the data bias in a world designed for men. So it was just something that I noticed, and I wanted to know if you guys noticed the same thing, especially because like I'm reading literature about it, and like the way that the literature talks about it, it's like, oh yeah, this is absolutely a thing, and this is why it happened. So why is there like a question in society as to whether or not it happens?
I think what tends to happen in this thing, like say for instance, like the if we're just using the Rihanna thing, man, the court, you and I talked about this like the first episode of I guess we can agree on that. The way the court system is set up is so unethical, and the dealing and pleas that are offered to people with of means, that's one thing. So I don't know how Rihanna's lawyer advised her, but if I was her attorney, I would have thought that would have been a slam dunk. And if I was looking to prosecute it to the fullest extent based off of my or seeking the highest charge based off of my client's wishes, then that's what they should have did. I don't know why it turned out D just dropped it in the chat for us. It was 3 months of rehab and probation. I don't know. Someone dropped a charge.
I think somewhere. I do. I think I do know why. And feel free to correct me, because like I might have a little bit of a bias here, and like maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but I think it was in order to save her career, because from what I have witnessed of other women who come forward and speak about these things, or like speak out against them, apparently like they're either blackballed or they live on in infamy. And where are they now? Like where are they now after they tell their story? They don't get to still keep the money and the affluence and everything like that when they attack the system. So I believe that in order to preserve her career, which at the time was smaller than his, she took a dive for that.
Nah, see, and I would 100% agree with your assessment on that. I 100% agree with your assessment. I think she did boil it down because she thought that like this was going to make, and that's obviously a narrative we got to fight against. I do think that we should keep the consequence conversation separate from you did this. I'm not saying you in particular, Vicky, but a vast majority, like the argument you're laying out is legible, and it provokes people to think of like, well, why are these women experiencing consequences worse than men? Until that person brings up Amber Heard. And I think the reason that her situation is so polarizing is because she what is the word I'm looking for? She took hostage a movement that was trying to address this issue and claim that she was a part of it. And now that's coming, it's coming undone. You know what I'm saying? I think that's where the sympathy meter drops for her.
Yeah, no, I don't have any sympathy for her. I definitely believe that she was wrong, and I definitely believe that like she should suffer the consequences of her actions. But I do feel like they're not equivalent. That's definitely what I feel like. I feel like the slander towards that woman, not that she doesn't deserve it, because I definitely think that she does, is 10 times worse than anything that I ever heard about Chris Brown. It's 10 times worse than I ever heard anything about Trey Songz. It's 10 times worse than I ever heard about Tory Lanez. It's 10 times worse than any of the other people who have been in like sticky, dicey, maybe legal situations.
Now, I'm no longer allowed to talk about the Meg and Tory Lanez situation. I've been placed on a 3-month probation, so I'm gonna pass it off.
Gotta love Mrs. Hold Up.
No, don't do that. I've placed myself. I've realized that some people can't handle the truth that I be kicking about Meg Thee Stallion and the street code. That's for another conversation. But people turned on Meg because of the street code. I'll let Cincy tap in on this one.
I am going to, tap in on this one in 2 different maybe 3 for real. Is there a difference when we have celebrities? Yes, Chris Brown got off the way he got off because of his celebrity, like many other men have got off. That's easy. What I am going to say, because I'm about to agree and disagree with DaVinci on here is, and this is all coming from real world experience, people I know, shit I've been through myself. Do women get it off worse in the court of law? In very specifically, when I'm about to say what I'm saying, in the court of law, when it comes to domestic violence or domestic disputes? That's very much a no. And if you have facts to prove that otherwise, please share them with me. But where I do agree with you 100% is in the court of public opinion. They will never cancel Chris Brown or Johnny Depp's career. They will cancel Amber Heard. If Rihanna was bigger and did put up a fight, they would have canceled Rihanna. So I do think in the court of public opinion, men do have it much, I don't want to say easier, but they get taken it lighter on than women.
Right. And I kind of, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were.
No, I'm sorry. I was just going to reiterate the fact that I believe that happens in the court of public opinion. In the court of law, I think that is actually opposite.
I don't think so, because do you remember that guy who got 6 months for raping a woman behind a dumpster? And they said it was because it would damage his promising career, and how there's like several other stories just like that. But like I actually do have the cases. No, I don't have time to, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm all over the place.
I mean,
because I do have the cases. I like got like a Brock Turner type deal going on, and how there's like tons of men just like Brock Turner, like in the court of law, who don't even get pressed for real for things that like raping that bitch behind a dumpster. I didn't mean to call her a bitch, but raped her behind a dumpster. Yeah. And then the court was just like, yeah, no, promising young man. I'm about to watch Promising Young Woman tonight.
Is that a good movie? Real quick sidebar. I was gonna watch that. Is it a good movie?
I like it, but I don't like the good for her films that depict I think they're damaging to women. Like, I like to watch them because they make me feel good, but women never get to come back in those movies. It's always you're going to lay down your life, or you're going to look unhinged, you're going to get locked up, and da 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 for getting your retribution. Like, when there's all these movies where like men get to run off and like get their get back for whatever happened in the past, and then they get to go on and live their regular life. You know what I mean? So like I hate that. Hate the good for her genre for that. Love watching the movies. Can't stand it for that reason.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just vision of DeVicki right now because I can hear the nails, and I just feel like it's going like this.
Hey, I do want to say this, Dominique, because if we're going to talk about who gets the benefit of the doubt in actual situations, where the man is the aggressor, like you mentioned, the gentleman, he's not even a gentleman, the piece of shit that raped the woman in the alleyway behind the dumpster and got off because it was damaging his career. I do agree that even in those situations, there is still a favorable man bias. I guess what I was trying to say is, in a situation where the female is the aggressor or the abuser, because I think in those situations they don't get brought to charges. In fact, when a situation like that comes up, and this I'm just saying from personal experience, I don't know the whole history of everything.
No, I agree with you. I agree. Keep on.
When they are the aggressors, it's passed off as okay,
right.
well, okay, so he didn't punch you, or he punched you in retaliation, or yada yada, whatever. Like, you are not about to get charged 9 times out of 10 if you were the woman that was the initiator of a domestic violence situation. At the same time, I also agree with you because it's completely unfair that there is still bias when the man is the aggressor, that we have to ask, well, what did the woman do to get you to that point?
And that's what I was talking about,
Yeah.
like in the chat earlier. It's either complete infantilization in order to save the male ego in that situation. Like in the case of what's that movie, or Chicago. Do you guys do you know the origin of Chicago? And how there were like multiple women on trial, but they're like, oh, they couldn't possibly do it because this beautiful, delicate woman, like she could never, and it was in order to save the ego, or it was in order to preserve the infantilized view of women that currently existed. It was never for the benefit of the woman. It was in order to benefit like the visualization of femininity at the time. And that's what happened in the case of Chicago. I think what happens now is that people infantilize women, like in the past, to save the male ego, except for when it can be used against women, like in the Amber Heard trial, because like over the past couple of years, there has been growing conversations about feminism, right? And so there are all these stats about men being the abuser in those situations. And so like there finally came a point in time where you could point the finger or turn the argument around and be like, see, women do it too. Look at Amber Heard. Look at Amber Heard. And that's why that's such a huge conversation right now.
Yeah.
man, here's the crazy thing about this, man. And this is one of those things where I feel like it's divisive, but I just, I got to concede to the point where, yes, there is definitely a socially a heavy hand. Oh, fuck that. Just downright vitriol thrown towards women. But this is the most insidious part about this as I'm listening to you guys describe it. So in the justice system, if a woman attacks a man, yes, there are, I agree with Cincy, plenty of instances where the justice system has not caught up to the concept that, hey, she was the aggressor here, unless it's outright murder, right? Unless she murders that man and they can prove it, because then that meets with the statistics, depending on, if she poisoned him or whatever. But the thing that's really trippy to me, though, is how polarizing the conversation around this has become because of two movie stars, right? I would have thought this conversation would have started maybe a few decades ago. There have been a few instances where there are okay, Nicole Brown and O.J. Simpson, right?
I think his son did it.
Yo, you know what? Oh man, don't get me started on the conspiracies, man. Because I'll throw one out there, man. I'll throw one out there.
I love a conspiracy.
No, because it'll get us canceled. This might get us canceled. But I definitely think they should have took a closer look at the son, for sure. And I've already had to apologize to those brothers who I thought were from the Nation of Islam that may have allegedly killed Malcolm. If I have to apologize to OJ next, I'm not going to make it through that. Like, I'm not gonna make it through that, man. Like, we can offline about that shit right there. Like, we can do a conspiracy episode. We should do a conspiracy episode. We got very deep tonight. We should definitely do it. I know the four of us. It's gonna turn into some fucking dark ass shit anyway. But I think it's insidious the way this thing is set up, because I actually think this is more of a campaign to divide men and women, and it's successful based off of like perpetrators, man. Like, I'm being 100% honest with you, man, because here's what happens. I come back with anecdotal data, and I'm like, hey, man, I know this many men that I've helped when I was working in services that were falsely accused. Then Da Vinci rebuttals with more data. But the fact of the matter is they need to go back to square one and look at a lot of these cases. Like the young lady you're describing that got assaulted behind the friggin' the garbage can. I remember that, and that was a very public case, and I was sure that kid was going to do hard time. But he was an affluent child, wasn't he?
6 months, my guy. He got 6 for a swimming career, baby.
Yeah, no, I don't. This is one of those things where, like, it's not because I'm going soft on the issue, but it's one of those things where the data outweighs any argument I could present. Now, Amber Heard and Meg Thee Stallion are not the people I would hang this argument on. That's all I'm gonna say.
Of course you would.
What do you mean? Of course you would. Like, I'm some fucking Neanderthal chauvinist. I'm just saying. I'm
mad at you this episode. Just take it and let's keep going.
You cannot be mad at me for being right. I get to be right.
I can be mad. No. I can be mad, and once I process it, we'll go back to being friends. But I can be irritated.
Okay, so let's just look at it this way, right? Publicly, let me ask the women this: the Me Too people in the Me Too movement, did they actually get behind Amber Heard when she came out and wrote the op-ed, or was it a narrative that was presented that said the Me Too movement was behind Amber Heard? And
that
if
was
it was
a narrative.
Okay. And then, so if it was a narrative, what is the social consequence from women in regards to Amber Heard? And as men, I would pose the question to Cincy: how do we plan on being more vocal about Chris Brown situations? So you understand what I'm saying? Because this stuff, it happens so often now that people just move right on. But I don't think we should forget the Amber Heard situation, because the legal system isn't, because now precedent is set, right? And now people are going to be able to argue this case in regards to these things.
Legal precedent matters now. I'm just kidding.
See, You want to open a can of worms, or do you
No,
want
I don't want to open it.
Okay.
I was in a silly, goofy mood.
Okay.
I was
Well,
in a silly, goofy mood.
That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying, man. I'm just like I'm trying. It's one of those things that I haven't yet figured out yet.
Steve, let me jump in here real quick.
Yeah.
What me and you can do in Chris Brown's situation is to continue to speak out and try to educate the people around us on why that was a bad problem. But let me also say why this is ineffective. In Chris Brown and many other famous people's situation, the people who consume and the majority of people who forgave Chris Brown were women. Not us. It had nothing to do with us. Nothing to do with us. It had everything to do with the women that saw a cute ass, light skinned motherfucker who could dance, and they didn't want to believe it was true.
And I want to talk about it because I'm mad.
Listen, man, I've been saying these light-skinned motherfuckers that can dance are a problem for years, but don't nobody listen to my dark ass. You know what I'm saying? We got to keep an eye on these light-skinned motherfuckers for real.
I mean, they did the same thing to R. Kelly, like, so.
Exactly. And I'm mad about it. I'm mad. Okay.
Wait, hold on a second, Bex. Did you say? Wait, so I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. Did you just agree that the light-skinned and the dark-skinned motherfucker both did shit and got away with it?
I'm saying that
because of women. Yes, that's exactly what you just
wait,
said.
hold on, Shizzy. Hold on for a second. Hold on. Bex, is that what you just said?
Yes, that's what I just said.
Shut up. Shut up. I don't want to hear you. I don't want to hear your mouth.
He's got to hit his vape. Hold on.
Yeah, be quiet. I'm mad about it.
Vape hit.
I hate him.
I know, right? Like, he's irritating. You urging me this episode. I can't. Like,
I think it's been our best episode. I'm having a great time tonight.
Of course, you're having a great time tonight.
Who wants to land this? Who wants to land this thing? Final thoughts, man. Final thoughts. I'm done. I've said enough tonight. But who wants to land?
I think this world hates women who break the rules, and I think that when it comes to a challenge to male authority, the dynamic is always going to be favorable to the man.
Period.
That's just my opinion.
Sensi?
Okay. I'm about to go completely off topic here because I tried to hold this in and not say it at the beginning of the show or during Mana's show. Always, like I said last night, choose a partner that you can see yourself at least getting along with. Because this morning I woke up, I get ready to go to my son's kindergarten graduation. An hour and a half before, my son's mother tells me that I can't come anymore because she's giving the other ticket to her mother. Y'all don't understand how, as an active father, that shit really hurt in my soul. It really hurt in my soul. So this whole day, I've been ready to get on here and let her freaking have it. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm not. Elijah Parker Strofe, if your mom ever tunes into this show right here, thank you for being the greatest mom that you knew how to be. That's all I got to say to end this episode.
That's beautiful and very, very, very mature. Sincerely,
Steve,
beautiful.
Do you want to go? Because I want to go last.
Oh, no, DeBinky. You can go next.
No. I insist. Please.
No. Tonight is Steve's night.
Why is tonight Steve's night? No, because you like to drop some shit in the last 5 seconds of the episode. That
I'll go because
yeah,
I know you probably got some missiles hidden. First, I want to say this, man. I want to acknowledge the tragedy that the massacres in Buffalo and the massacres in Texas. I want to acknowledge what Cincy just said right now. Too many good fathers doing the best they can every day and are excluded and don't have an adequate enough voice. And I hope that we could change that. And on behalf of the good fathers, and we appreciate you, Cincy, for sharing that, man. My prayers go out to those families, for those people slain in Buffalo, and for those babies that were murdered in Texas. I think my final point is I just want people to know the truth of me, man. I am not a divisive guy, right? I love my people through and through, but I don't have to like all of y'all. But I love you. Like, I love you. I love you for real. And I have done some horrible things in my life, and I've been held accountable for most of them. And I'm haunted by the things that I got away with. But the one thing I will not do is I will never, ever, while I'm present, let anyone pull the wool over my people's eyes again. Like, I won't stand for it. And I'm not a moral leader. I'm not anyone. But in these twilight years of my life, I would rather be hated for saying what's right and what's true in defense of my people than being silent and complicit in the destruction of my people. So, as I said the other night, I'm a feminist. I stand up for Black women. I stand up for women in general because I've hurt women. And I will spend the remainder of my days not being a simp motherfucker trying to say the shit y'all want to hear. But I know what evil lurks out there in the world. And if we don't get our act together, we will be done. So that's your Uncle Steve saying that I'm here for you. I ain't loaning nobody that's not on this panel any money or in this chat. I don't love any of y'all that much, but I got kind words and prayers for you. But we gotta wake up. We gotta wake up. And now I'm gonna turn it over to a person who claims to love me, but will probably say some horrible things about me in these last moments. My mother. Mom, you on the line? Oh no, sorry.
You know what? Ooh, that man irritates me, but that's my friend, y'all. So only person who gets to clap back at him like that is me. And everybody else on the panel. There were a couple of things said today, both of which I agreed with or didn't agree with. Like, I think that the most defining thing about this conversation is that, like, after this, like, I'm still going to talk to Steve. I'm going to still talk to Sensi. I'm going to still talk to Bex and everything like that. I think that because I have such strong feelings about these conversations, I have to be willing to go back to the drawing board and be like, okay, I was wrong here, here, and here. But I was right here, here, and here, and I'm going to stick by that. I think that these conversations are so hard because, like, sometimes people aren't able to take themselves out of the equation, me included, especially in the first part of the interview when we were talking about Black Lives Matter. I will do my absolute best to look at my own biases as well as recognize the biases of other people. But, like, you know, I think what I realize or what I liked best about these conversations is sometimes, like, people will not, there's no give. And we're going to have to work around that in the future. I want you guys to email me or join the server, thefeministareUp@gmail.com. Steve, I'm about to beat your ass. And I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Okay.
And now for the real final word. I love everyone. I love everyone up here on this panel. And yeah, I hope everyone had a good time. Thank you for sticking around, everyone. And remember that this is DJ Cincy Star's brainchild, man. And I'm glad we could have the conversation and you know, we can start the healing. And that's the real final word. Because I was gonna make a joke and say I'm a man, but I feel like that would have been like the shit to really set this whole thing off. Because I love y'all, man.
Take the shot.
I'm not taking any. I am taking a shot on my birthday. So listen,
I was talking to
tomorrow-
the sniper.
the tomorrow starts the official shenanigans, folks. Like after I get out of work, I will come home and I am, me and Cynthia are gonna do the charity stream tomorrow. Make sure you tune into Request Box Live. Make sure you tune into Power Love Latinas. But directly after they go off, we go on, and then it's just gonna be crazy. I'm not stopping until
What are you taking a shot of? A shot of what?
No, girl, I was talking to the sniper.
Oh no, not you. I'm talking about him. He said he's taking a shot. Like, what shot are you taking?
I'm gonna take a shot, man. I'm gonna have me
a Hennessy.
Are you gonna drink Hennessy, Steve?
I might, but
with a side of watermelon.
I'm not.
Fried chicken for dinner.
Ever.
In front of the white people.
In front of company.
I will never do that. But I did post y'all pictures in the Black Caucus forum, and I was like, they're out. Bex is out for the watermelon drink. DaVinky's out for the watermelon pieces, and Cincy's out for taking a bite out of raw watermelon in the supermarket. And I was the one like, take a shot, Hakeem. Brother, Narik, Nasheed, Habil, whatever you are, you see him. You see him. Yo, we're out of here. This is crazy. Now I'm just talking shit. Love y'all. Cincy, take us out, man. You're a beautiful brother. You say the last word, Cincy.
All right, y'all. I love each and everybody that's on this panel, everybody that continues to join us on this show and all our other shows. We all are amazing, dope content creators. And I hope, and sorry, this is official final plug. I hope everybody tunes in tomorrow, Thursday night, after Power Love Latinas for Request Box Live, because we are raising money for an amazing, amazing organization called Q Kids that helps the youth, in particular, the young ladies between the age of 4 and 18, see something bigger than just their neighborhood and just the city of Cincinnati. Come out and support us.
Don't let me find out they have any $1 million properties.
We don't even have.
I'm joking.
Remember, it's not the feminists that are watching. Steve is watching. I'm watching.
You just want the smoke tonight. Like, leave me alone. I'm trying to be good.
Good night, y'all.